Hello and welcome everyone. In this video tutorial, we will discuss the concept of OOPS in Python. So we will start off this video by understanding what is this OOPS. Then we will try to understand some of the main concepts related to OOPS, which is object-oriented programming. So we will discuss about classes, objects, inheritance, polymorphism, data abstraction, and encapsulation. So without any further delay, let's start with the very first topic and let's understand what is this OOPS. Basically, OOPS stands for object-oriented programming. So similar to many other general purpose programming languages, Python also comes in the category of object-oriented language. So by using Python, we can utilize the concept of classes, objects, and even other object-oriented concepts to develop applications. The main goal behind OOPS is to incorporate real-world concepts into programming. For example, polymorphism, encapsulation, and even inheritance. Moreover, the fundamental idea behind this object-oriented programming is to combine the data and the functions that it uses into a single entity, preventing access to the data from being made available to other part of the code. So as an illustration, an object might stand for the person by having the attributes like name, age, and address, and even some actions like running, talking, breathing, and walking. In other words, object-oriented programming is a method of modeling actual real life things as well as relationship between them. So as I told you, the key concepts, or we can say the fundamentals of object oriented programming, are classes, objects, inheritance, polymorphism, data abstraction, and encapsulation. So let's discuss each one of them in detail, and we will start off with the concept of classes in Python. In simple terms, a class in Python can be defined as a group or collection of objects. Moreover, a user-defined class serves as a template, or we can say prototype, from which objects can be built. Classes offer a way to group together functionality and data. A new class produces a new type of object, enabling the creation of new instance of that type. Now, each instance of class may have characteristics linked to it to retain its state. Class inheritance may also contain methods for changing their state that are defined by their class. For instance, if we have an employee class, it should have an attribute and method such as email, name, age, and even salary. Now to define a class in Python, we use a class keyword which is followed by the name of the class. Now we have already discussed the naming convention related to classes, and we have discussed this thing that the name of a class should always start with a capital character. Let us understand this concept of class practically with the help of an example. So what I will do, I will move back to my Visual Studio Code. Now here I have already created this main.py file. Now as I told you, to define a class, what we need to do, we need to use the class keyword, and then after the class keyword we have to define the name of the class. Let me define the name as person, and here you can see P is capital. Now after this we need to put a colon, and then with the indentation we can define different methods or attributes within our class. So for example, if I define name as James, then age, I will define age as 32, and in the last let me define one more thing, which is gender, and let me define it as male. So in this way we can define a class in Python. So what we have done, we have used the class keyword followed by the name of the class. Then within the indentation of the class we have to define the different attributes and methods. Now let's move forward to the next topic, which is objects in Python. So after creating a class, the next important thing is the object, which simply is an instance of a class. Now we can consider an instance as a clone of the entire class with the actual values, whereas a class is just a blueprint. Python treats everything as an object, and most objects have attributes and functions. A built-in feature, which is known as a doc, is available in all the functions, and that returns the doc string specified in the function source code. Now we have already discussed how we use this doc function. Basically, objects are a collection of data variables and methods that operate on the data. While defining an object, memory allocation is required to store actual data for the variables. Moreover, when we create an object, a clone for each data variable is defined. In simple layman terms, we can say that each object of a class has a unique copy of class data members. Now to define an object, we simply need to call the class just like we call a function. Now let's understand this thing with the help of an example. So I will come back to my Visual Studio Code. Here you can see we have already defined a class. Now let's discuss how we can define a object. So first we need to name our object. Let me name my object as obj, then the assignment operator, which is equal to sign, and then we just need to call the class. So in my case, the name of the class is person. So in this way, I have created one object of person class. Now we can utilize this object to assess the values defined in our class. And how we can do that? So for this, what we will do, we will create certain variables. So let me name this variable as p underscore name, and I want to assess the name value from the person class. How I will do that? I will use the object, then the dot operator, and then the name value. In the same way, I can assess the value of age from it. So if I change age, and in the same fashion, I can also assess the value of gender. Now let's print the value. So I will simply use a print function, and then I will put a string person name. In the same way, I will print the age as well, and I will also print the gender. Now let me run this program. So I will open a terminal, and then I will simply type python main.py, and here on the screen you can see we got our result. So in this way, we can define an object in Python, and by using the object, we can assess the different values which are defined in our class. Now let's move forward and let's discuss another important concept related to class, which is the init function. Now this init is one of the reserved keywords available in Python. In Python, this init is an important part of object-oriented programming, as it utilized to define a constructor in Python. Moreover, when an object derived from a class is created, the init method can be used to initialize the class attributes. So this function exists in every class and is always called when the class is being initialized. Additionally, while creating an object, we must use the init function to set the value of its properties. Now, we can understand the concept of this init function better with the help of an example. So I will quickly create one example. Again, I am back to my Visual Studio Code. What I will do, I will remove all these values from here, and within the class, what I will do, I will define a constructor using the init function. Now, very first parameter in this init function is self. We will understand what is this self further in this tutorial. For the current instance, you focus on the different parameters that I'm going to pass in this function. So after self, I have defined another parameter which is name, and then I will define another parameter as age. Now to assess the values, I will simply type self.name, and I will assign it to name only. In the same way, I will do for age. Now what we have done in this example, we have defined one class person. Now as we have discussed, whenever a class is being initialized, a constructor is being called. So what I will do while defining an object, I will pass the value of name as James, and I will also specify the value for it, and I will also specify the value of age. Now if I again run this program, here you can see I have used the same method to assess the value of name and age, and then I'm simply using the print function to print its value. Let me open the terminal again, and now again I will run this program python main.py, and here you can see we were able to assess the values. So the person name is James and the person age is 32. So in this way, we can use this init function to define a constructor for our class. Let's move forward and let's discuss the another concept, that is inheritance. Now inheritance in Python is also a most important aspect of object-oriented programming. This concept replicates the concept of inheritance in the everyday life. So the concept of inheritance simply implies that all the characteristics and the behavior of a parent class will be carried over to the child class. So with the help of inheritance, we may define a class in Python that utilizes all the traits and features of another class. In this, when a new class is defined, an existing class is hardly changed at all. Moreover, a new class is referred to as a derived class, or we can say a child class, and the base class, which is the parent class, is the one from which it has been inherited. Now let's consider this example. In the actual world, a car is a subclass of vehicle. So basically we can create a car by inheriting the attributes of a vehicle, such as wheels, colors, fuel tank and engine, and then adding more attributes to the car as needed. We will discuss about inheritance and its multiple types further in this tutorial. Now let's move forward and let's understand about the concept of polymorphism. So polymorphism is another important concept related to object-oriented programming. The term polymorphism is derived from two Greek words, poly, which means many, and morphism, which means forms. So we understand the concept polymorphism means that a single activity can be carried out in several ways. This polymorphism in Python enables us to define methods with same name as those derived from their parent class in the child class. For example, all of the parent class methods are inherited by the child class, but in this method a child inherits from the parent class may not always fit perfectly into it. So in such cases, we might need to re-implement certain methods in the child class. Now in Python, there are several ways to apply polymorphism. To define polymorphism, we utilize several functions, class methods and objects. So I hope with this, the concept of polymorphism is clear to you. Now let's move forward and let's discuss about data abstraction. In Python, abstraction is one of the fundamental concepts of object-oriented programming, including managing complexity by hiding extra information or data from the user. These concepts make it possible for all the users to add even more intricate logic on top of the abstraction already present without having the need to understand or even consider all the hidden background or backend complexity. Let us take an example. So while using social media platforms to connect to friends, talk, share, or even share photographs, we may not be aware of how these activities are carried out in the background. In the same way, when we use Google, we frequently click on various page links and carried out various actions without even realizing what is taking place in the background. See, that particular abstraction is one of the concepts related to object-oriented programming. Now, to accomplish this in Python, we utilize the concept of abstract classes and method, which we will discuss further. For the current instance, let's move forward and let's discuss about encapsulation. So, encapsulation is one of the four main concepts related to object-oriented programming. A single object can be encapsulated if it contains both data and the function that operates on it. This will allow us to conceal the object's interior condition from the view. A basic example of encapsulation in Python is by using the concept of classes. A class combines data and methods into one cohesive whole. Additionally, a class offers methods for assessing its characteristics. See, the goal of hiding information is to ensure that object state is always valid by controlling the access to the attributes that are hidden from the outside world. Now, I hope with this you all get an overview related to object-oriented programming and different concepts related to it. Now with this, we have come to the end of this tutorial session. Now there are many other things related to object-oriented programming that we will discuss further in this tutorial series. For example, we will discuss about the abstract methods and classes. We will also understand what is this self keyword that we have used in our example. So thank you so much for watching this video. We will see you in the next one.